Good morning to all and welcome to the session, the Hindu Editorial Analysis for Proficiency in English. Today's editorial, at the outset, before I go to the analysis, I got delayed. Sorry for the delay. And we'll start the session with the question, what is this editorial about? This editorial is about the recent tensions. Two countries are involved. Recent tensions between Ecuador and Mexico, particularly focusing on Ecuador's breach of the Vienna Convention. Ecuador, as a country, has breached the Vienna Convention on diplomatic relations through its raid on the Mexican embassy in Quito. Broadly speaking, this is about two countries, the row between two countries, or the diplomatic tensions between two countries. What are the two countries involved? One is Ecuador, the other is Mexico. And what exactly happened? To write an editorial, they need a stimulus. What is the stimulus here? Ecuador government attacked the Mexican embassy in Quito. That goes against the Vienna Convention related to diplomatic relations. This is a row. This editorial is all about why the Ecuador government had to attack the Mexican embassy in Quito. What are the reasons behind? Whether they can be justified or not. This is a broad thing. Editorial takes a stand and says Ecuador shouldn't have done something like that. It has to be within the limits of international laws. Let us go to the tone of the editorial. The tone of the editorial obviously has to be critical. The tone of the editorial is critical and admonishing. Admonishing is an important word because in many competitive exams they have given the word admonish and also the synonyms. What are the synonyms here? One is a reprimand, rebuke, chide. Simple words, scold severely. And one more word here, admonish. Admonish, rebuke, reprimand, chide, scold severely, they all mean the same. The tone of the editorial is critical and admonishing. We have got this word for the first time. Usually we get critical, concerned, analytical, objective, but this is a new word, you got to remember this. How does it start? Breach of convention. The word breach has two different meanings. One meaning, breach means a crack. If you take a concrete structure like a wall or a dam, imagine there is a crack, then we use the word breach. But in this context, it has a different meaning altogether. Here, breach means violation of rules and regulations or international laws in this context. Breach, it can be a noun, it can be a verb. There is a breach, you can say, then it's a noun. And the country has breached something, then it's a verb. It's a regular verb. To break or act contrary to a law, promise. In this context, it could be a law, it could be an agreement. Someone breaks the law, the contract, the agreement, it is known as breach of law, breach of contract, breach of agreement. These combinations are very important. What is the second word? Breach of what? Convention. Convention as it can be a noun, and as a noun, it has two or three meanings. One meaning, literally, the primary meaning, gathering. And based on this, we have expressions like convention center, where people gather. But in this context, convention means an agreement between states, here nation states, that means countries, covering particular matters. Based on some matters, there's some sort of agreement among the countries, then we use the word convention. Here, which convention are we talking about? The Vienna Convention related to diplomatic ties on the Ecuador Mexico tensions. But what is the main idea of this editorial? Ecuador should stay within the limits of international laws. Should stay within the limits. Audio is not on. Give me a second. Check the audio. Others, one student Pranita says audio is not there. Others, please give the feedback, please respond. Is audio okay? Audio is on or not on? Everything is perfect. Check your settings, Pranita, check your settings. Nothing wrong at my end. There's a problem at your end. Please check. Thanks for responding, others. Everything is perfect. I was talking about Ecuador should stay within the limits. Should is a helping verb. I have told many a time it has two different meanings. One meaning, should, is used to advise or suggest. Advise or suggest. And the other meaning, should, is used to express possibility but the chances are less. In this context, suggest or advise or suggest. Ecuador should stay within the limits of international laws. Usually we use this expression, you should stay within your limits. You should be within your limits. Be in your limits. This is a standard expression, goes with everyday English as well. Should stay. Editorial has taken a stand. What is a stand taken by the editorial? Ecuador as a country should stay, should be within the limits of international laws. It should not cross the limits. That's what it means. And to provide the background information, here imagine this is North American continent. Here we have Mexico in the Central American region, though it belongs to North American continent. North American continent, Central American region, Mexico is here, and this is South American continent or Latin America also we say. Here we have the Ecuador. There is a rift between these two countries. One is in the Central American region, but part of North American continent. The other is South American or Latin American country. What exactly is a row and how does it start or provide information about the tensions? Ecuador's raid on April 5th at the Mexico embassy in Quito is a serious violation of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, on which nations operate their missions in foreign lands. In a nutshell, this sentence says Ecuador government attacked the embassy of Mexico in Quito, which is in Ecuador. And this act of attacking the Mexican embassy in Quito is nothing but the violation of the international law that goes with the Vienna Convention related to diplomatic relations or diplomatic relations exactly. Raid. Ecuador cannot raid. According to the Vienna Convention, one country, any country for that matter, cannot attack the embassy of some other country. Imagine Indian embassy is in the US. Some problem between India and the US. Imagine. Still, the US cannot attack the embassy, Indian embassy in the US. That is according to the Vienna Convention. But contrary to that, in this context, Ecuador attacked the Mexican embassy in Quito, which is in Ecuador. That is the actual problem that has resulted in diplomatic tensions. Ecuador's raid, when did it attack on April 5th at the Mexico embassy in Quito, is a serious violation, not ordinary violation, serious violation of the Vienna Convention on diplomatic relations. This convention is related to diplomatic relations between countries or among countries on which nations operate their missions in foreign lands. Every country has certain missions, political, economic, social, cultural, all these missions. How do they operate? They establish embassies in other countries, and through those embassies, they try to execute the missions. Usually not political, economic, social, cultural. The raid was what was objective? What was the reason behind attacking the Mexican embassy? This sentence provides a reason for attacking Mexican embassy in Quito. The raid was to arrest George David Glass, a former vice president in the administration of leftist and former president Rafael Correa, who has been sentenced for corruption. In this editorial is very important from grammar point of view. You may ask why. Many a time the writer has used a present perfect in active voice, also in passive voice. Besides that, the writer has used a reporting verb Whenever you see a reporting verb, you have to recollect the rules related to direct speech and indirect speech. That way, this is an important editorial. Here, the raid was already happened, past. To what? What was the objective? Was to arrest George David Glass, a former vice president in the administration of leftist and former president Rafael Correa, who has been sentenced for corruption. This former vice president has been sentenced for corruption. Who has been sentenced? Tell me which tense is this? And is it in active voice or in passive voice? Whenever I underline a particular clause or a particular sentence or a particular phrase, if you know, respond immediately. It is in present perfect passive voice. They have sentenced him. Present perfect active voice. He has been sentenced by them. Present perfect passive voice. Who has been sentenced for corruption? Former vice president. Again, there's something very important you have to recollect. Former. Former in this context means once he was a vice president, right now he's not the vice president. But former, whenever you see, you have to recollect two words. Former, first in position. It deals with position. First in position, and not later, latter. Second in position. Second in position. These two words are very important from the exam point of view. Passive voice, very good, I appreciate that. Anjali. And who else is there? Vijay Sagar. Here, one is former, means first in position. Second is latter, not later, latter. Second in position. Those two are very important. The former vice president in the administration of leftist and former president Rafael Correa, who has been sentenced for corruption. They wanted to arrest him, so they attacked the Mexican embassy. And the reason behind also we'll come to know when we go down the editorial. And Mr. Correa, now living in Belgium, has also been convicted for corruption charges or corruption. The former president also convicted, has also been convicted. This is also in passive voice, present perfect passive voice. And convicted, we have got so many times to decide officially in a law court that someone is guilty of a crime. Last time also I gave a word map. The word map related to a case or court. I gave words like a plaintiff, defendant, file a case, and hearing, trial. And also, four words are very important. One, innocent. That means not committed crime. Then the person is acquitted. Then guilty. That means committed crime. Then the person is convicted. Here, the former vice president has been sentenced for corruption, and the president has also been means adding more information, has also been convicted for corruption. What do they say? Mr. Glass and Mr. Correa say. This is what I was talking about. In this editorial, you come across, when you see the word say, what should come to your mind? You have to think of reporting verb. Here, say is reporting verb, and it is in present tense. Immediately, you have to recollect. If you take direct speech, indirect speech, we have three areas, four areas actually, but three are very important: statements, questions, commands and requests, exclamations. When it comes to statements, there are three important rules. Second and third, very important. The first one is also equally important. What is the first rule? If the reporting verb is in present tense, present perfect, or future, the tenses don't change to a corresponding past tense. Here, they must have said, the cases are politically motivated. The cases are politically motivated, direct present tense, actual statement. Because the reporting verb is in present, the tense does not change. Present does not change to past. Mr. Glass and Mr. Correa say the cases against them are politically motivated. See, here it is in present. Has not changed. But for Ecuador's president, Daniel Noboa, the cases against the former elite or elite, were part of his larger crusade against corruption. There are two important words here. This means if you take any society we have broadly three classes: the low class, the middle class, the high class. The high class, usually the rich and the famous, those who have the money and those who have the power or the talent. We also use expressions like cream of the society. And there's one important word we use, that word is gentry. First, let us see the meaning of the word elite. Noun, a select group that is superior in terms of ability or qualities to the rest of a group or society. And crusade, part of speech noun, a vigorous campaign for political, social, or religious change. A refugee is different, refugee is different. A place or situation providing safety or shelter. All the words I will tell the meanings, but here an important word, gentry. If you take nouns, we have different dimensions. One of the dimensions, number. When it comes to number, I usually give six rules. One of the rules, some nouns always have the same form, singular form, and but take a plural verb. Always singular form, excuse me, always singular form, but take a plural verb. In the past, they would give cattle, poultry, but nowadays they are giving the word gentry. Gentry, obviously, it looks singular, it has a singular form. In the exam, they may give, the gentry has accepted our invitation. Wrong. The gentry have accepted. Singular form, plural verb. That you have to recollect. Nowadays they are touching this, they're using this particular word. Coming to this sentence, these two leaders, the former president, former vice president, they say these cases against them are politically motivated, means the political intentions to make them weak or to gain some advantage in upcoming elections. But the word but introduces contradictory information. But for Ecuador's president Daniel Noboa, the cases against the former elites were part of his larger crusade against corruption. The president, incumbent president, does not agree, and he says these, the cases against the former president, the former vice president, part of the crusade against corruption. There's one important word, crusade. Crusade means what? Fight against, war against. And this crusade word goes with religion, religious war. We use the word crusade. It also goes with fighting against a particular social evil. Crusade means crusade against corruption, war against corruption. An important word. Tensions were high between the two countries after Mr. Glass took refuge in the Mexican embassy in Quito in December, a month after Noboa took office. Take office, present, past, took office. The current president or the incumbent president took office sometime, and 1 month after that, the former vice president took refuge in the Mexican embassy. There's one important word here, refuge. Take refuge, took refuge, seek refuge, also you can say. Refugee, already we have got many a time. Some people from one country migrate to another country. Why do they do that? Because of the political turmoil or a chaotic situation in this country. And when they migrate, they are known as refugees. And they go to another country, that country provides a shelter. That is known as asylum, political asylum. But in this context, what is the word? The spelling over there, double E, but here single E. Refuge. A refuge, part of speech, noun. It means shelter, a place that provides safety or shelter. Tensions were high between the two countries after Mr. Glass took refuge in the Mexican embassy in Quito in December, a month after Mr. Noboa took office. It all started there. But before that, something else happened. Last week, Ecuador declared Mexico's ambassador Raquel Serur SMEEK as persona non grata, an important expression. Foreign expression, what does it mean? Persona non grata, part of speech noun, a person who is no longer favored or welcome. You can also take it as a person who is no longer acceptable or a person who is not acceptable, unacceptable. And this particular government, Ecuador government, declared last week something happened. What happened? Last week, Ecuador declared Mexico's ambassador, Raquel Cerur Smeek, as persona non grata after Mexico's leftist president Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador's comments that were critical of Ecuador's 2023 elections. Last week, something happened. What happened? Mexican president, who is he? Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador passed some comments related to elections that happened in 2023 in Ecuador. And these comments were critical. Based on that, what did Ecuador government do? It declared the ambassador of Mexico as persona non grata. That means not acceptable, no longer welcome or accepted. Mexico also decided to grant asylum to Mr. Glass, which angered Ecuador. There are two things over here background or backdrop. What is the backdrop here? Mexico made Ecuador angry on two counts. One, the president of Mexico made comments related to 2023 elections conducted in Ecuador. Critical comments, not acceptable. Second thing that angered Ecuador, Mexico provided shelter. Mexico also decided to grant asylum. Asylum means shelter. We have got this word many a time. Asylum has two different meanings. One meaning, a place for lunatics or mad people. In our country, we say mental hospital. It sounds very harsh, but better word is asylum. One meaning. Another meaning, shelter, political shelter. Mexico also decided to grant asylum to Mr. Glass, which angered Ecuador. It termed the decision illegal. Providing shelter to a person who has been facing or who has been convicted, definitely not legal, and this was made clear by Ecuador government. It termed the decision illegal as Mr. Glass was facing past continuous tense cases in the country, and soon after sent armed police officers to the embassy to arrest him, triggering a major diplomatic crisis. To present the whole thing in a nutshell, the former vice president, Mexico, in a way, initiated, we can say, the president passed critical comments related to on elections conducted in 2023 in Ecuador, one thing. Second, Mexico decided its decision to provide shelter to the former vice president who has been facing charges. And these two things triggered Ecuador. And subsequent to that, Ecuador sent the police forces to arrest this man, former vice president, and they sent the police forces to the embassy, Mexican embassy in Quito, Ecuador. That is, it goes against the Vienna Convention that has triggered the diplomatic tensions. It termed the decision illegal as Mr. Glass was facing cases in the country and soon after sent armed police officers to the embassy to arrest him, triggering a major diplomatic crisis. Mexico, which says its sovereignty has been breached. Based on this attack, according to the Vienna Convention, no country can attack the embassy of some other country. And here, Ecuador attacked the Mexican embassy. And in a way, it is nothing but breaching the sovereignty of Mexico. That's what Mexico says. Mexico, which says, again, reporting verb is in present. After that, has been breached. Even here we have present perfect passive voice. Because the reporting verb is in present, present perfect hasn't changed to past perfect. It is in present perfect. Mexico, which says its sovereignty. Sovereignty we have got many a time. What does it mean? A particular country has a right to govern on its own. Then we say it is a sovereign country. If some other country controls, then it is not a sovereign country. The power of a country to control its own government. If you take Indian constitution, you go to the preamble, you see India is a sovereign country. Means what? Not controlled by any other country. Based on the attack, Mexico says its sovereignty has been breached, has now moved, again present perfect, The International Court of Justice in the Netherlands demanding the expulsion of Ecuador from the UN. What is the reaction of Mexico based on this attack? Mexico went to the International Court of Justice, which is in Hague. Before Hague, also, we have to use a definite article, The Hague. Where is this, the International Court of Justice? The Netherlands. Again, you have to be alert and you have to recollect the rule. Now, names of countries, proper nouns. Before a proper noun, we should not use any article. But in English, we have rules, we have exceptions. There are some countries, before the names of those countries, we have to use a definite article, the. Everyone knows the US, the UK. But exam point of view, three countries are important. First one is the Netherlands, second one is the Philippines, third one is the Irish Republic. These three they have given many a time. It went to the International Court of Justice in the Netherlands demanding the expulsion of Ecuador from the United Nations. Demand made by Mexico. The embassy raid comes at a time when second part talks about the scenario in Ecuador and to what extent the Ecuador president popular and what are the major problems the country faces, on what promises he came to power, whether he's able to meet implement those promises, fulfill those or not. It's all about that. The embassy raid comes at a time when President Noboa is facing increased criticism. This is a present scenario at home over rising gang violence. What is the present scenario over there, or this happened that time? What is the scenario? The president of Ecuador, the embassy raid comes at a time when President Noboa is facing increased criticism at home. Criticism regarding what? Rising gang violence. Again, you have to recollect rise, raise. We have discussed many a time. He came to power promising to tackle corruption and gang violence. Usually, at the time of election, the parties release a manifesto, the promises. And this man came to power on two promises, one tackling corruption, the other dealing with a rise in gang violence. Right now, that is not happening. The violence going up, rising gang violence is there. Based on that, he is criticized. He is facing present continuous tense, increased criticism at home over rising gang violence. He came to power promising to tackle corruption and gang violence, two things. Last year's presidential election was marred. Mar is an important word, means to spoil something. Mar, impair the quality or appearance of. Simple word, spoil something. Last year's presidential election was marred by deadly violence when presidential candidate Fernando Villavicencio was assassinated during the campaign in Quito. The presidential candidate was assassinated. There's one important word, assassinated. Assassinate verb, assassination noun. What does it mean? Killing an important person, usually political or religious, but more political. Ordinary person, we don't use the word murder. Ordinary person, we don't use the word. Murder an important person for political or religious reasons. Usually, political reasons, a political leader has been murdered, we say he has been assassinated. This talks about violence at the time of elections. Mr. Naboa says he stays committed. We have the reporting verb is in present. Because of that, the tenses haven't changed. The main clause is also in present. Mr. Naboa says he stays committed to fighting gangs and restoring order in Ecuador cities, but his approval rating has sunk. He keeps saying the same thing. What does he say? I'm going to fight corruption, fight against corruption. I'm going to control the rising gang violence, but it's not happening. Because of that, his popularity has come down. He says stays committed to fighting gangs and restoring order in Ecuador cities, but his approval rating has sunk. Again, present perfect. Sink, sank, sunk. Has sunk, present perfect, active voice. Amid growing violence, in the middle of growing violence, violence is not coming down, it is going up. Especially in the coastal city of Guayaquil, which was overrun by gangs in January. Overrun means to spread or take over. A particular place is taken over by gangs. That means controlled by gangs. Then we use this word overrun. The situation is so bad in Ecuador that during the Easter weekend, the country of 18 million people saw over 100 murders. It, it tells us about to what extent the gang violence is going up and whether the situation is under control or not. The situation is so bad in Ecuador that here we have an important expression, and you have to recollect that there are two combinations. One, so that goes with adjectives, adverbs. The other one, such that, so that, such that. Such that goes with nouns. Here, the situation was so bad, bad adjective. The pattern is so that. The situation is so bad in Ecuador that during the Easter weekend, the country of 18 million people saw over 100 murders. Critics say Mr. Noboa is using the diplomatic crisis with Mexico to strengthen his political fortunes. What do the critics say? Right now, he has to focus on corruption and he has to focus on controlling gang violence. Instead of focusing on these two, he has triggered a new problem. What is that? Diplomatic tensions. The critics say that he is doing it just to strengthen his political fortunes. Fortune, an important word. Chance or luck as an arbitrary force affecting human affairs. And another word, referendum, a general vote by the electorate on a single political question that has been referred to them for a direct decision. I will explain again while reading out the sentences. Here, what do the critics say? The critics say he is not focusing on the actual problems. What are the actual problems? One is fighting against corruption. Corruption is a problem. Second is gang violence. Instead of that, he is trying to do it intentionally, perhaps. He has triggered diplomatic tensions for the sake of political fortunes, means to become strong because elections are fast approaching. But he has merely triggered a new crisis. By doing so, he has merely triggered a new crisis without addressing the actual one. That's what I have been telling. Instead of dealing with the actual crisis, he has triggered a new crisis. What is a new crisis? Diplomatic tensions. Ecuadorians are set to vote in a referendum. A referendum means to the people of a particular country. Very good. Who is that busy life? Crisis, crisis. Very good. I appreciate that. People of a particular country are given a choice. You want this or this, and they have to decide. They have to vote. That is known as a referendum. Only one question. You want a unitary form of government or federal form of government? This side or that side? Presidential or some other form? They have to decide. Here, Ecuadorians are set to vote in a referendum next week that would give the government increased security powers to fight gang violence. The government has to get its act together. An important expression. Has to, also an important expression. I have told many a time, have to, has to. Same helping verb. If the subject is I, we, you, they, have to. If the subject is he, she, it, has to. What is the function? It is used to express an obligation imposed by an external authority or a situation. Here, situation. The government has to get its act together. Get your act together means to streamline whatever you do and to become more effective to achieve the goal. Get your act together means to streamline, to organize everything and become more effective to achieve the goal. The government has to get its act together in the war against organized violence, but it should do that from within the limits of domestic and international laws. What the sentence says, the government has to put in more efforts or organize its efforts and become more effective to control organized violence. But whatever it tries to do, that should be within domestic and international limits. Beyond the limits, the country cannot go. In this case, it has gone beyond the limits. How does it end? Going rogue. Going rogue means doing something that is dangerous without following the rules or established traditions. Going rogue inside the embassy of a neighboring country in the name of fighting corruption is not going to help Ecuador. Going rogue is not a good thing. Going rogue in the name of fighting corruption, that also it is not going to help. They should not cross the limits. That is it is as simple as that. Going rogue inside the embassy of a neighboring country in the name of fighting corruption is not going to help Ecuador. Going to an important expression. First, I'll read the sentence, then I will tell the importance of that. Is not going to help Ecuador in tackling the myriad challenges it is facing. Myriad means countless, many, a countless or extreme great number of people or things. The country is facing myriad problems, many problems, and at this stage, if it attacks the embassy of a country in the name of fighting corruption, that is not going to help the country. That's what it means. But here there is one important expression, going to. In English, to express future actions, we have five patterns. One using will, second using shall, third using going to, fourth using present continuous plus time in future, fifth using future continuous tense. For example, I will come tomorrow, I shall come tomorrow, I am going to come tomorrow, I am coming, present continuous, tomorrow, I am coming tomorrow. That also refers to future action. I will be coming tomorrow. Future continuous pattern, but refers to future action. Here, going to is an important expression. It expresses a future action besides an intention. That one has to remember. That's all about the editorial. Let us go to mini mocks. We'll start with any online course available. The get back to, we'll provide the number, call that number, and you'll get all the details. Mini mocks, first we start with comprehension based questions, then grammar, then vocabulary, effective English. After the session, we'll provide the PDF. Join the Telegram group. There you can access the PDF of the same editorial with the questions, mini mocks. Read the first one, try to answer quickly. According to the editorial, what was the primary reason for Ecuador's raid on the Mexican embassy in Quito? Why did Ecuador government attack Mexican embassy in Quito? What is the main reason behind? Easy to answer. This is based on explicit information. Explicit information means what? Mentioned in the passage, direct information. It's all about a corrupt former vice president. To attack, they had to do it. To arrest him, they had to do it. Based on that, to arrest a former vice president facing corruption charges. Wonderful. I appreciate those who have responded. Keep responding. That will help you guys in the long run. Do remember. And I appreciate all of you when you respond, because this is related to comprehension skills, not easy, higher level of standards. During a live session, you don't get a lot of time, only a few seconds. You answer. It shows that you're good at reading comprehension skill or listening skill. You're a very good listener. Only then you can answer. And also you're good at comprehension. What issue is President Daniel Noboa facing criticism for in Ecuador? Right now, what is the criticism against Daniel Noboa in Ecuador? Why are people criticizing him? Economic recession, climate change policies, a rising gang violence. He came to power on two promises: one, controlling, fighting, crusade against corruption; the other one, controlling gang violence. Not happening. C is the answer. Very good. Almost everyone got it right. That is great. What event marred Ecuador's last presidential election according to the editorial? All these are based on, when you read a question in the passage, related to the passage, focus on the key words. A same word has been used, navigate, locate, you get the answer. What event marred Ecuador's last presidential election according to the editorial? One of the candidates, presidential candidates, was assassinated. The word assassinated was used in the editorial. Where do you see the word assassination? The assassination of a presidential candidate. Within no time, you can answer based on a particular word. Otherwise, also contextual awareness, you can answer. Very good. Let us go to question number 4. What action does the editorial suggest President Nabova should prioritize? According to the editorial, what should be the priority of the President Nabova? Immediate, what should be given importance? This is a tricky question. You got to be very careful. Question number 4. Expanding international trade agreements not relevant here, and increasing government spending on infrastructure projects not relevant here. You have to choose between B and C. You got to read carefully. Mention the question number and respond. Strengthening diplomatic ties with neighboring countries, addressing rising gang violence effectively. Some students say B, but a lot of students have chosen C. Answer is C. It is not about diplomatic tensions, priority, gang violence, and corruption. He should focus on one of the two, either gang violence or corruption, addressing rising gang violence effectively. C is the answer. I appreciate all those who have answered C. Question number 5. How does the editorial characterize President Noboa's handling of the diplomatic crisis with Mexico? How does it characterize the President Noboa when it comes to dealing with Mexico? Diplomatically adept and tactful. Adept means skillful. Politically motivated and counterproductive. Neutral and non-confrontational. Decisive and strategic. This is also easy to answer. Instead of focusing on corruption and gang violence, he has triggered a new problem. What is that? Diplomatic tensions with the intention of getting political fortune. And it may not work. Politically motivated and counterproductive. Very good. His diplomatic tensions, the diplomatic tensions he triggered, are going to be counterproductive. Politically motivated, counterproductive. Counterproductive means what? You do something expecting a positive result, but you get a negative result. Then we say counterproductive. And there's one important word you have to know. We also say boomerang. When we do something expecting a positive result, we get a negative result, we say it boomeranged. And boomerang actually invented by tribal people of Australia. You'll be surprised to know it looks like this. Inverted V shape, wooden thing, used for hunting purpose, hunting tool, invented by aboriginals, indigenous people, aboriginals of Australia. What is surprising here, when you throw it, if it hits the target, it falls there. Does not hit the target, based on principles of aerodynamics, it comes back to you. That is astonishing. It works on the principles of aerodynamics. Boomerang. It can be a noun, it can be a verb. Good. Now let us go to questions based on error location. Read the first one and try to spot the error. Unwanted effect, you can say that also. Very good, Dharani. I appreciate that. Good. Who is this? Busy life. Boomerang. You have used. Fantastic. That is a word you have to recollect. Counterproductive or boomerang. The question of what needs to be done to make institutional rural credit more inclusive continue to remain a vexing challenge. Vexing means irritating, troubling, without any solution. You are troubled regularly. Vexing problem. The question, this is a subject of what needs to be done to make institutional rural credit more inclusive. Continue is not correct because subject is third person singular. Sentence is in present tense. We have to add S or ES to the subject, to the verb. Here, the subject is third person singular. Sentence is in present tense affirmative. Then we should add s or es to the verb. The question continues to remain a vexing challenge. Fourth part, very good, I appreciate. No. Inclusive continues to. Continues. Yes, Shravani got it right. Continues. Who else? Anand also. Go to question number 2. The Reserve Bank of India's plan to establish a public tech platform for frictionless credit is a well-intentioned move that is aimed for easing the flow of credit. A lengthy sentence you have to read carefully. Mention the question number. This is question number 3, question number 2. We are running out of time. The Reserve Bank of India's plan to establish a public tech platform for frictionless credit is a well-intentioned move that is aimed for is not correct. Aimed at. Aimed at. Here we have to use a preposition at. Aim takes for also, but generally aim at something. No. Problem is with the fourth part. Nothing wrong with other parts. Question number 3. The need for such a centralized public platform can hardly overemphasized when one considers a lack of formal credit penetration. Aimed at. Yes, Anand, you're right. It has been aimed at something, not for something. The last question based on error location. The need for such a centralized public platform can hardly be overemphasized. This is a bit difficult. Here, it should be in passive voice. We can hardly emphasize something, active voice. Something can hardly be overemphasized, passive voice. Based on that, we have an error in the second part. Can hardly overemphasize, not grammatically correct. Can hardly be overemphasized, passive voice, that is correct. Here we have next one. Cloze test, 2 slides. This is the first one. Next one also same continuation. And there are 7 blanks. You have to choose the appropriate word. This is a bit challenging because a live session you may not get a lot of time. You have to respond immediately. Developed by the Reserve Bank Innovation. I hope you can make out where the blanks are. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we have 4. Next slide 3. Total 7. Mention the number and the letter. Developed by the Reserve Bank Innovation Hub. Where is this hub? Very good. Who is that? Dharani. I'll write here Innovation Hub. The platform will. Go to the next one. Hub. Very good. Public demands. Go to the next one. Divya Rathod also. Almost all. You guys got it right. Go to the second blank. The platform will. Will what? No one has responded for the second blank. The platform will feature. No. G is the answer. What is it? G. The platform will feature. Good. Divya has got it right. Anand also. Then public demands. The platform will feature open architecture, open application programming interfaces, and standards that would facilitate the what? Go to the third one. Facilitate the, you have a noun here, but don't use grammar knowledge. Try to pick up based on contextual awareness. Flow generally takes one particular word. No barriers, no hindrances, no impediments. Things go very smoothly without any obstruction. Very good. Busy life has got it right. Seamless. Here, C. The seamless flow of required digital information from varied, good, you guys are getting it, seamless flow without any hindrances, without any blocks, impediments, hindrances, hurdles. Seamless flow of required digital information from varied what? You can think of certain words like varied sources, varied organizations, varied entities. Wonderful. Shravani, first one to respond. Varied entities. Here, F is a varied entities. Entity means an organization in this context. Continuation of the same text, same words. Already have chosen some. As part of an effort to the technology and its utility. What is the right word? Technology, what do you try to do? Or a new gadget, new policy, what do you try to do? Good, I appreciate that. All of you have got all, the first four. Go to the fifth blank. As part of an effort to, no one has responded. One student responds, I will give the answer. I don't want to give before that. Validate, very good. Ramakrishna got it right, and also Dharani. Validate. Where is this? As part of an effort to validate the technology validation very important. Checking, cross-checking, whether it works or doesn't work. And its utility, the RBI said the platform would be introduced in a, only two are left, pilot, SANS. In what? Easy, based on the seventh blank. But you have to know the meaning of a particular word, only then you can answer. Sixth one, if you answer sixth, it's over. The pilot, very good, busy life. To in a pilot, here A is a word. In a pilot, credit card loans of up to 1.6 lakh per borrower, loans to dairy farmers, credit, sans collateral. Sans means without. Here we have to use B. Credit or loan sans collateral security means what? Credit or loan without collateral security. Sans, without. How many of you have got all the seven correct? If you say all the seven correct, wonderful, highly appreciable. Because it's a live session, I have not given enough time. Still, you could get all the seven correct. That is astonishing, appreciable, admirable. You have to be happy. The last slide deals with idioms. There are 5 idioms. Try to get all the 5 correct. The first one, over the moon. Over the moon means what? Over the moon, extremely pleased or happy. Once in a blue moon. I use this quite often, offline classes. On the lighter side, I tell students, you guys read the Hindu paper once in a blue moon. Some, not all. What does it mean? Not very often, rarely. Don't read the Hindu paper once in a blue moon. Try to read the Hindu paper every day. That will help in the long run. Under a crowd, suspected of having done something wrong. Cry for the moon. To make unreasonable demands. We got this last week. Under the weather. Not feeling well. Over the moon means extremely pleased or happy. You can also say cloud 9. I was on cloud 9. Means extremely happy. Once in a blue moon, rarely. Under a cloud, suspected of having done something wrong. Cry for the moon, to ask something unreasonable, to make unreasonable demands. Under the weather, a bit not well, not feeling well. That's all for today. I appreciate your response today. Most students have responded. Keep doing that. You will get benefited. Mark my words. During a live session, you respond right or wrong. Don't worry about that. But if you respond, it shows you are an attentive listener. You are very good at listening and you are trying to be part of the session. And in the long run, this habit will help. You can consolidate your knowledge. And same questions, more or less, you get in the exam. Every day you practice, practice, practice. In the exam, in a way, you're training yourself, your thinking. In the exam, it becomes easy for you guys. Have a nice day, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you very much.